out. Everybody.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lights Out. I'm your host, Josh.
And I'm your host, Austin.
And I'm the producer, Daniel.
And we got a wild one for you today, man. You know, a little bit more lighthearted than the usual content on the show. And, I was like, let's do a paranormal episode where we're not necessarily looking at a paranormal case or paranormal stories where, there's some legitimacy to it. Let's do an episode where there's absolutely no legitimacy to the paranormal stories.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even sure if that was possible. I was like, Austin, let's see if we can find enough stories of people who have tried to hoax the paranormal. And what do you know?
Turned out
there's quite a few.
There's some really fun stories in here.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about everything from alien autopsies to cattle mutilations to killing Bigfoot to accidental time travelers to a man who truly believes he's a vampire.
That one's wild. Because it's almost... It's real, but it's also not. Yeah, that's a wild one.
Very questionable individual for sure. So just relax, there's nothing. Well, actually, some things in here might make you squeamish.
Yeah, that's true.
Depending on how you are with blood.
And chicken guts.
Yes. And deer urine. There's lots of that. But luckily you can't smell that. So yeah, just sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. These are some of the worst yet kind of hilarious paranormal hoaxes you've never heard of before. So let's just start it off. Let's start it off with a bang. Alien autopsies. This footage has been floating around the internet for a long time now, and I've probably been sent it by people out there in the audience more times than I can count.
I bet.
Some people being like, guys, did you see this?
Did you see this?
This shit is crazy, bro.
Evidence.
Real aliens being worked on, cut open. Well, we're going to give you the real backstory to this footage because it actually originates in 1995. It's on YouTube as well. We aren't able to show you any of the footage in the episode because it is heavily copyrighted.
Which is ridiculous.
Really
are they still making money off of this footage?
Oh, yeah.
I bet.
Oh, they are. They know they have some legitimate shit here.
I wonder if the fact that people know it's a hoax now might have even made it more interesting, if anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're going to hold on to this as long as they possibly can until somebody... I'm just waiting for AI video to come out that looks
really real,
actually real,
like a deep fake of an alien autopsy
that starts making the rounds, and people are like,
"This is it."
And that's kind of a good thing to bring up. That with almost all these stories, I couldn't help but think we're going to see more of this as time goes on because of AI. I mean, I get fooled sometimes with AI videos and I have to really look, or my thing is if there's any hands involved.
Oh, that's how you can tell.
Dead giveaway.
There's 6 fingers or something.
Yeah. Or there's like hands protruding out of a neck of something. And they're like, oh, okay. The AI hasn't figured out hands yet. But I feel like we're going to see a lot of that. So 10 years from now, we'll do another episode and it'll just be all AI.
Yeah. Seriously.
Paranormal fakes.
Yep.
But anyways, in the 1990s, television was the most popular form of media in the US. And as the X-Files,
great show,
legendary show, was growing more and more popular on Fox, TV executives noticed that shows featuring aliens began to see higher ratings. In 1995, a London video producer named Ray Santilli claimed he purchased footage of an alien autopsy from a U.S. military photographer in Ohio in 1992. And apparently, he claimed the body of this alien in the footage was recovered from the legendary 1947 Roswell crash, which is it's really where this whole alien bonanza started, I'd say.
That was the foundation, yeah.
Which, to be fair, I am a big believer in Roswell, and I do believe that it really happened, and a lot of the events that happened there are in fact true. Do I believe And I do also believe that bodies were recovered from the Roswell crash. Yeah,
yeah.
However, I am skeptical that this footage is of the very alien bodies that were recovered from these craft that crashed. But according to the footage, the autopsy had been performed at the Fort Worth Army Airfield, and Ray had apparently sent portions of this film to Kodak to confirm whether the footage was legitimate or a hoax. And according to Ray, Kodak stated that the portion of the film they viewed could have been manufactured in 1927 or 1947 or 1967. Which is it? Yeah. So just at some point during this 40-year span, this footage could have been produced. Fox reportedly paid Ray $250,000, so $250,000.
That's crazy.
To just run this footage during a pseudo-documentary called Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction. So this grainy black and white footage shows 3 people slicing open what looks to be a humanoid alien creature of some sort. They perform a full autopsy, and they even cut the creature's head open to examine its brain. And it also features strange items allegedly recovered from the Roswell crash, including odd alien symbols, 6-finger control panels. And the footage also showed a man reading a statement verifying his identity as the original cameraman and confirming where the footage had come from. Again, Fort Worth Army Airfield. Now,
wait, I'm going to eat my words, I realize. These aliens have 6 fingers. So
according to this.
According to this, but I was like, oh, the AI, it's going to be all 6 fingers or something. Funny enough, the aliens in this footage have 6 fingers. I kind of forgot about that.
There we go. We'll see a lot more 6-fingered aliens, hopefully, in the future.
It all comes back around.
So Austin and I are going to watch a little of this just so we can give you a little bit of it's a 20 plus minutes. We're not going to make you sit for 20 minutes while we add some commentary over this, but we'll just kind of look through it real quick and give you the quick 60-second version of this. And of course, we'll link it if you want to go watch the full thing, but we'll throw some images up if you're watching on YouTube, just so you can kind of see what we're looking at. So yeah, let's take a look here.
There she blows.
Footage opens. There's looks like a medical table. There's
the wound. That's pretty good. Like the crash wound, you know?
It looks like it's got its leg blown open.
Yep.
Suffered massive trauma.
Very grainy film.
So a couple things. The feet are very human-like. The face and head are very human-like.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange to me.
The head's kind of huge. Probably like the back and the skull brain.
Yeah, it's got the
part
elongated
looks,
skull, which is, pretty typical. The eyes are glassy and black. And I mean, the way that I would describe this alien is the classic gray alien that's depicted in all popular media across the board. Although I've always thought gray aliens were a little bit smaller than this guy. This guy looks to be a little bit bigger than most descriptions of what a gray alien are.
He's got kind of like a distended belly. Like it looks humanoid, but there are just some weird features to it.
Smooth skin across.
Yeah, no hair at all.
So you've got these guys, they're all hazmated up in their
This is my favorite
gowns.
part. So they're extracting the brain here. They have to cut through the skull and they take out the brain. But you can notice the alien's eyes, what they look like earlier to what they look now. All of a sudden, they look like very human eyes, but they've now rolled back into the head a little bit, which is funny to me that somehow the eyes are still activating this deep into the procedure.
But I mean, I guess you could see how one might think this is from, potentially 1947, although that clock on the wall doesn't look to be 1947 to me. The phone.
Or I'm wondering the phone with the cord.
Now they've cut the whole chest open. They're digging around in there.
I mean, they did nail at least the film of it, right? It's like this grainy black and white film that you could think would maybe come from this time period.
Yeah, they definitely nailed that. But I mean, I think most of our gut reaction is this just looks like a dummy.
Yeah.
It doesn't look very real. You don't see any, like the way that they're cutting into this tissue doesn't look like they're actually cutting through tissue at all.
Right.
And of course, they didn't show them slicing the chest open. They're removing pieces of the brain.
sometimes you can see the body kind of jiggling, like it's just like made of rubber.
Oh, now he's got the whole saw out. He's just gonna...
Yeah, they're about to pull the whole thing out of here.
What's in here?
Just yanking brain matter out from the skull.
It's a goo.
What is that?
Alien just got a goo for a brain.
And then, yeah, if we didn't clarify that these people, they're just in hazmat suits, so you can't really see their faces.
They don't look to be like, if you've ever seen, demonstrations of an autopsy or know anything about autopsies, they're very precise, very, they're using medical tools. These are medically, trained individuals who know where to cut, what to do. These guys just look
like they're sawing into people's heads.
No medical training here whatsoever. Yeah. Oh, and then they amputated the leg. So basically they're just dismembering this alien on this table.
Piece by piece.
And at first glance, you might be fooled by it. You might be like, oh,
yeah,
this is interesting. I mean, it's fooled a lot of people. A lot of people think it's real.
Yeah, still. So I guess they did a good job.
Yeah, they definitely, I'll give them kudos. It's,
I mean, it's cool.
Not bad.
They did make like the goo and organs and stuff look very real, and the blood looks real, and I'll give them that.
I bet you if we added color to that, we'd probably be like,
yeah. Or like not grainy film. If it was like HD, you could probably point out a lot more.
Yeah. Well, this footage, it aired around the world to tens of millions of viewers, and it was rebroadcast 2 more times with even higher ratings than the first airing. And soon enough, countless more were buying it on VHS. They're like, I want a copy of this because I want to watch this all the time. Dedicated alien enthusiasts became obsessed with the footage. And a 1995 Time magazine article said it had sparked a debate, quote, with an intensity not lavished on any home movie since the Zapruder film, which is wild.
That is, for those who don't know, that's the film that caught the JFK assassination. So Time magazine is saying that this is as controversial as the JFK assassination. What? Wow. Maybe, times were just simpler in the 90s, I think. Things were going really smooth in the 90s. We didn't have much to worry about.
It was a different time. It was probably exciting. It was like, whoa.
Aliens, yeah. That was our biggest thing. Aliens.
This episode of Lights Out is brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is one of my favorite apps, honestly. And I'm not just saying that because they're sponsoring the show. I love Rocket Money. I even pay for the premium version because I find it extremely useful in managing my finances, and ultimately it's already saved me a ton of money by just being able to organize my subscriptions, because God, we have so many of those.
So many. Countless. I like how I get the little notifications where it's like large transaction detected.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
I get a little, I'm like, what's going on? But they break it down really easily, and you're like, oh, I remember that one.
Credit cards, all of your bank accounts, you can link everything in one place, which makes it really convenient as opposed to having to log into a bunch of different sites, 2-factor authentication.
Right.
That just drives me nuts when I want to check on balances really quickly. But it's nice to be able to have it all connected in one place. And then it'll go through your accounts, especially your bank accounts, and find those subscriptions for you. So you can get a nice clean list of everything that you're paying for. Because God, in the age of streaming apps, there are so many. I mean, you could have 20 different streaming services you're paying for.
So many, man.
And you might have only started a trial per se for a show. You watched the show and then you forgot about it, or just
that's how they get you.
It's exactly how they get. That's why everything is a subscription now. Is because once you're in,
they know they could suck you in that easily. And then it was like, oh, it'll get lost in their email.
Right.
They won't really remember, but Rocket Money stays on top of it.
Rocket Money is there to help you in so many different ways. If you're not familiar, it's a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Plus, it monitors your spending and even helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. And that's a really cool feature I think a lot of people don't know about. One of my favorite features about the Rocket Money app is the ability for them to try and negotiate lower bills for you. So when you get everything set up, it'll automatically go and scan your bills to find opportunities to save. And then you can actually ask Rocket Money to go out and negotiate for you.
That's awesome.
Saving you money.
That's awesome.
It's no wonder that so many people have started using it. I mean, millions of users have started using it. It's saved a total of $500 million in just canceled subscriptions alone. And on average, it saves members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Highly recommend trying it out. It's free to try it out, but then definitely worth the $6 to $12 for the premium version, because ultimately it will save you money in the long run. We love it. We know you will too. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lightsout today.
That's rocketmoney.com/lightsout. rocketmoney.com/lightsout.
So Fox managed to frame the autopsy in a way that protected them from defrauding the public.
Mm-hmm.
The most obvious way was adding fact or fiction.
Yeah.
We're covered.
Yeah.
To the name of the docuseries. So it ultimately leaves the, decision up to the viewer. Do you believe it or not? Who knows? It might be real, might be not. But the legitimacy of the footage didn't last long. Some of the participants from the show claimed that the interviews in which they called the footage a hoax had been edited out of the program. Soon enough, skeptics began calling out the footage as fake. And later that year, even the show X-Files featured alien autopsy footage that Agent Scully describes as, quote, even hokier than the one they aired on the Fox network, which is referring to Ray's footage.
Which is also funny because the X-Files was on the Fox network.
Yeah.
So the writers of the X-Files are jabbing the other shows on the same network.
That's great.
Which is great.
A writer for the Skeptical Inquirer, C. Eugene Emery Jr. pointed out how easy it was for the men to remove the brain from the skull without removing any connective tissue.
Yeah, wait
Which
a
again,
minute.
maybe the aliens don't have that connective
That's
tissue.
true.
Maybe
That's
it's just floating in the head.
I think that's fair. I think that is actually a fair critique of that critique.
I think so.
Yeah. Who knows what their brain
who knows what
connectivity tissue is?
I like to think they're a little better looking on the inside than that, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have some cooler characteristics to their skin, and, they don't have blood, and,
Yeah, it's just an M.2 in there.
Yeah.
What?
It's just an Intel processor.
Yeah.
Hey, there's some people that think the gray aliens are actually AI.
Computers?
AI
Yeah.
bots. They're not even, they're like cloned.
I could believe that. I mean, really, when I think of like bio creatures sending their own across the universe, it almost doesn't make that much sense.
Why risk biological life when you can send artificial?
Send a computer, send a robot over there. I think that does make a lot more sense.
So it may have been more believable if they cut open to it and there's like wires.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah. That would make a lot more sense. It's almost too human-like for me to believe, which is kind of the old trope of aliens. They're very human-like. But in 1997, skeptics also pointed out that Ray had posted photos of the alleged films canister that had the words Department of Defense on them. And this is really important. I think this is kind of the smoking gun here. So the Roswell incident occurred between June 4th and July 10th, 1947. The Department of Defense, which was created on July 26th, 1947, was initially called the National Military Establishment. It was not called the Department of Defense until 1949. So unless the autopsy was performed a couple of years after the incident, that would be odd. So this made the footage highly suspect. It took 10 years for Ray to finally admit that the footage was a hoax in a documentary called Eamon Investigates Alien Autopsy. But Ray still claimed it was inspired by genuine lost footage and that in 1993 or 94, he had seen the real footage. But within a year, that film had allegedly deteriorated. Only a few frames were left, and he claimed he tried to restore the footage, but he really couldn't.
So he could add inspired by true events to his film.
Right. I know. That is funny to me that he's coming clean, but then kind of tacking on another, I think, is a lie to it. Do you believe him if there maybe was some original footage?
There's a lot of people who claim to have seen this type of footage.
Sure.
Even Logan Paul. No joke. He claims to have purchased some footage, some UFO footage from some whistleblower out by Area 51 that is like crazy shit. So I do think there's a possibility some people, the public, have potentially come across footage they weren't supposed to see.
Sure.
However, I don't know if I believe him here since he's already misleading us so much, but
And I don't believe
I don't
a
know.
Paul brother in anything they say.
Yeah, that one's kind of hard to believe, but yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I could believe, though, there's some confidential footage out there somewhere that people have come across. I wouldn't doubt that at all. I'm not really. I'm on your page with Ray saying that there was original film.
It's just kind of a convenient thing to throw in there.
Yeah, like he had it and then it deteriorated that fast too. I'm like, I don't think that's how.
So it lasted from 47 to 3 days ago from you saying this. Okay.
Right. Yeah,
very, very suspicious.
Exactly. So regardless, the hoax footage that was bought and aired by Fox in the mid-90s was completely fabricated. Ray and his fellow producer Gary Shufield had filmed the simulated autopsy in a small set built inside a living room in an empty flat in Rochester Square, London. They hired John Humphreys, a trained sculptor and special effects artist, to make 2 dummy aliens, which took him about 3 weeks. And John has been credited in the special effects department for over a dozen film projects since the 1980s. So that's why it looked so real. I mean, props to him for making it look somewhat legitimate, at least, to fool a lot of people. So many of the viewers had been impressed with just how realistic it looked with the blood and the organs in that leaked footage. And it turned out John had used various butchered meat and organs from chickens. He used some knuckle joints, sheep brains, and raspberry jam to make it all look real. He also used custom-made mechanisms inside the dummy to produce fake blood along with other special effects. And I'm wondering if the eyeballs going up in the he pushed a button somewhere and robotically, they went back up in the head, which is kind of funny, but very Hollywood-esque, right?
Yes. Raspberry jam.
Yeah, right.
Back to our point about seeing this in color in 4K,
we could probably point out the blood not looking real at all. Or
I'm just like, really though? You just use like sheep brains? Like,
yeah.
It's just like, you really think the aliens are rocking similar organs to sheep brains? Like,
probably not. Or just so similar to anything on Earth.
You're right,
really.
right.
Yeah. John was also one of the actors in the film playing the chief examiner, and this actually allowed him to operate the mechanisms inside the dummies while filming. And as for the odd alien artifacts featured in the footage, Ray admitted that John had also made them. After filming, the crew then cut up the dummies into pieces and threw them into several dumpsters around London to cover up the hoax. We'll never see those again. As for the man who had allegedly been the, quote, original cameraman, many skeptics found it odd. He had never come forward over the years, and Ray had initially said that the cameraman would come forward in, quote, the very near future to give more credibility to that footage, but he never did. And so Ray eventually admitted that they hired a random homeless man from the streets of LA and they filmed him in a nearby motel. They apparently never even bothered to learn the man's name.
Tells you everything you need to know about Ray and this whole ordeal.
Yeah, and I wonder if they specifically picked out a guy who would just be like, no one will ever find this guy again to question him about any of this. He'll keep his mouth shut about it.
They pulled it off for a while.
They did for a long while.
Danny, what do you think about when you look at this? What do you see?
I see great practical effects. I'm a big fan of practical effects in general, especially in horror movies and stuff. And I think from a practical effects standpoint, it looks great.
Yeah.
From a convincing point, no, I think not really.
Yeah, it looks.
You just see like a movie.
Yeah,
prop.
I see a movie prop, and going back to the point where we're talking about we don't know what aliens are. We don't even know if they're carbon based.
Right.
So we may not even know what their biology is. So making it seem so human and realistic, I guess makes sense for the time, but especially nowadays, it's just not going to work.
No, great point. I mean, they may not even be able to manifest in this physical reality,
right,
with what they're made of or their consciousness base, whatever it may be. So,
yeah.
But at 1995, man, different time.
Yeah,
different time.
Things were great.
E.T. was the pinnacle.
Yeah,
right.
E.T. was legit.
Man, what happened to alien movies? Do we still make alien movies nowadays? I mean,
every now and then.
Interstellar was quote unquote an alien movie, but it's more exploring humanity and our relationship with the unknown. Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't really even call that an alien movie. I'm trying to think of it like
Arrival was
Arrival. I love Arrival.
is
Yeah.
encounter with extraterrestrial, I believe.
Yeah, I read that novella that it's based on, which is really good. I highly recommend anyone to read that. It's awesome. And the movie is also just a great adaptation.
There's Nope.
Yeah, I was going to say
Nope.
Nope
Yeah.
It's not a traditional alien movie, but
Yeah, which I was happy about. He kind of took his own twist on what an alien could be.
I think
that was cool.
I think they're hard to pull off these days.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think
we've kind of caught on to just the humanoid, big-brained alien too often. It's kind of something we've seen before.
Right.
I was interested in.
I think that's probably why Alien did so well, is because it was a brand new, fresh take.
Yeah, true.
A terrifying take.
Terrifying.
I love those movies. The new one, Romulus, was really good, actually. I like that one. Just paid a lot of homage to the older ones. But
are they on Earth, though?
No, they're out in space.
Yeah.
It's not really like a first contact type deal. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but not really. But yeah, I love alien movies, though. We don't make a lot of them anymore.
Yeah, or there's I don't think Super 8. I'm trying to think of Super 8.
Oh, yeah, Super 8 was Alien.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, though?
But
it was weird. I don't know, there's some, like, cube things in that movie.
Yeah.
I just remember the train accident.
Yeah.
That was the craziest part.
But there's not this, like, they haven't done a movie of, like, gray aliens land
standard. Yeah.
Because we'd all probably be bored with that. We're like, we've seen this.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise us. And most of us are like, we welcome the aliens at this point.
Yeah, right.
Come down and help us.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. I did have a question, though. So do you think it's like unethical to fabricate footage like this? Or do you think like really this is just for fun?
Depends on what you disclose, It's like if you disclose it as real, but it's not.
Do you think there's some responsibility on even Fox Network? Like, do you think there's some responsibility on them? Because they covered their assets. They're like fact or fiction.
Yeah, and I think that was the move.
That was
a smart move.
Yeah.
Had they been like, this is real, then I think they hold, because like, can I hold Ray responsible? Well, he's like trying to play it as if it's real initially, but it takes all the fun out of it if he's like, no, guys, nobody's going to watch it if he's like, this is fake. We made this in a studio. So I think it's unethical to disclose something as true when it's not,
True.
Or at least disclose that, hey, I don't know if this is true, but I don't know if this is also false per se. And I like the let you decide type of thing.
Sure.
But if it's very clearly human manufactured, you should disclose that at some point so people don't run with it as truth. And
yeah, how long did they run with it for? It's a few years at least.
Because then it spirals out of control, right? Then people are, then somebody else is going to do something. And then before we know it, we believe all of these fake aliens are real.
Right. So it aired 95. But people by 97, people are like, this doesn't seem real with the Department of Defense thing. But it was 10 years after the footage was released to the public that Ray did admit. So I think he kind of saw it as like, I can come clean now because a lot of people don't believe this is real anyway. It's a bit of a safe move. But eventually, they did say it was fake.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole balloon boy thing.
Oh yeah,
which that's fucked.
Yeah,
and that dad deserved the punishment he got.
Yeah,
acting like your son is in a balloon, up in the sky, and you get all these actual resources. You know what I mean? I feel like this is kind of harmless in comparison to some other hoaxes out there where you start wasting real resources.
That's a good point, because really, so he sold the footage to Fox, and then Fox probably profited off of that even more so. So really, it's just people making money in an entertainment field, but it's
and is it their fault that people were like, no, this is legit?
Right? No, I wouldn't.
And if he kind of plays into it and plays it up a little bit for funsies, is that unethical?
I think they're kind of in the clear with this one, because they did it's a sneaky move to be like, well, we'll just it depends. Do you want to believe in this? And they did open it up to the question, but I do find it maybe a hair unethical that they're maybe trying to portray this documentary as we're going to get down to the answer, and knowing that they suppressed some of the interviews that were saying like, no, this is ridiculous. Like they cut those out. So bit of media bias, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think they knew it's like, this is entertainment value.
Yeah.
This is WWE. We're kind of just, it's just for fun at the end of the day. And if people believe that it's real, that's kind of on them.
It's on them. Yeah. Well, I think it's a whole different story when you're hoaxing something that actually has factual truth behind it, and scientific evidence to back it up.
Yeah.
Whereas like, that's the fun thing about paranormal hoaxes, is it's the paranormal.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to sit there and be like, well, I know the truth about it because we have factual evidence and scientific proof. So that's why I think these are able to just run the way that they do, because it's already, there's kind of this conspiracy around it already. So if you're already hoaxing something that's already considered a conspiracy, what's the harm in that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I say that specifically relating to these paranormal hoaxes, but obviously conspiracy can go a lot of different ways where it can run wildly out of control.
Yeah.
And hoaxes can perpetuate those lies, as we've seen in history, to where it gets dangerous and it starts affecting real life and people's livelihoods and their safety. And that's where I draw the line with it. It's like, it's all fun and games until it starts impacting real life and people are making real life decisions based on something that's a hoax or a conspiracy, right?
Yeah. And as far as we know, this footage never led to anything like that before. So that's why it's kind of all in good fun. I kind of think.
Yeah, it's some as Daniel said, some great practical effects. Guy, honestly, I give him the $250,000.
Yeah.
Not bad. But let's move on to one of my favorite cryptids, Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
Love some Bigfoot stories. Well, former corrections officer Rick Dyer made big news in 2008 when he claimed to have killed the legendary Bigfoot.
Wow.
Or as Rick called him, Hank. Okay. He's been hunting Hank for a while. But Rick and another Bigfoot hunting hobbyist and police officer, Matthew Whitten, claimed to have killed the cryptid when they went on Steve Cole's radio show, Squatch Detective. Rick said, quote, "Bigfoot is 100% real. There's no question about that. And I'm going to go down in history as the best Bigfoot tracker in the world." Okay, bro.
Wow.
All right. They said that from the 3 samples taken from this creature they killed in a preliminary DNA test, one came back inconclusive, one contained traces of human DNA, and one had traces of opossum DNA, which could have been from something the creature ate. But the men kept the body hidden for the time being. According to them, the beast weighed in at 550 pounds and stood over 7 feet tall.
That's huge.
That's like some Andre the Giant shit, right? How heavy was Andre the Giant?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think he was 500 pounds.
Was he? That'd be crazy if he was that heavy.
Or the Great Khali. I know he's a 7-footer. I don't think he's quite 500 pounds, but
Andre the Giant was 7'4", 520 pounds.
Damn.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so
I didn't realize he was that heavy. That's crazy.
He was massive.
Have you ever seen that picture? One of my favorite pictures of him. He's holding like a beer can. It looks tiny in his
It's like a shot glass.
Yeah, right.
So we're talking Andre the Giant size Bigfoot.
That's wild.
How's he hide so well?
You'd think so.
So big. Imagine Andre the Giant out in the woods.
You could hear him walking from a mile away. Yeah.
Bigfoot's got next level stealth. But Rick and Matthew then revealed their photographic evidence to many who were quite skeptical of their claims. And it didn't take long for skeptics to call the men out on the hoax. Jeffrey Meldrum, a Bigfoot researcher and a professor of anthropology at Idaho State University, said, quote, "This is becoming like an alien autopsy shenanigans. What I've seen so far is not compelling in the least, and I think the pictures cast grave doubts on their claim. It just looks like a costume with some fake guts thrown on top for effect." And turns out that's exactly what it was.
Yep.
Skeptics and Bigfoot believers pointed out that the creature in the tub looked exactly like a rubber Sasquatch suit that can still be bought from the horrordome.com today.
You can go on there and find this webpage. It's a good suit, too.
It looks very, very legitimate as a costume.
Yeah.
This costume adds approximately 1 foot to your height.
Finally.
I want to get one of these. You know what? Next studio, we're getting a 7-foot Bigfoot costume that we're just going to taxidermy and fucking have standing.
Sweet.
But Rick and Matthew would fill the suit with opossum entrails and what they called, quote, slaughterhouse leftovers.
Gross.
And then they put this whole mess in an ice bath. Because,
To preserve it. We'll throw some ice on them.
because they're going to harvest it for meat later.
Yeah.
Got to keep it good. A select few were allowed to see the creation for themselves, and not many were impressed. Can you imagine? Guys, come take a look at this, okay? We killed the Bigfoot. You're like, yeah, whatever. And then they're hyping it up so much. They open they bring you to the tub, and you're like, what the fuck?
They couldn't even get the pictures to look that convincing. Like, if you even look at the pictures, it just looks like a costume.
It looks like a
thrown in
deflated
there.
costume.
Yeah. So, like, how are they going to convince me in person? That's too funny.
So this is crazy, but despite how ridiculous this whole thing was, did not stop media outlets like CNN from putting some breaking news out there about this, including the New York Times, The Independent, and of course Fox News. And what's even crazier is this hoax went all the way across the pond, down under to Australia. Let's take a look at the clip from Australia.
Bigfoot
She's
has
like,
turned
"Do I
out to
really?"
be a big hoax.
Bigfoot?
2 Americans tried to convince the world they'd found the creature in a forest in Georgia. But when other Bigfoot hunters got their hands on the frozen remains, they discovered it was just a rubber gorilla costume.
Oh, come on, that's
Most people are excited about the
Gross.
fact that finally they're going to be vindicated, and now we're not able to do that. That's just cruel.
The rival hunters are planning to take legal action against the police officer and former police guard who
Damn.
made the claims.
they take this shit serious, man.
Very seriously.
Because I get it. These clowns,
You can just roll in and make a really stupid claim, and then you're hitting New York Times is reporting about this.
these poor guys already have a hard enough time telling their friends and family and people they meet what they do for a living.
Right,
But they don't need this making international news
Right.
to just add more laughter
Right.
to that.
Yeah, it's a shame. Police officer Matthew Whitten, who was Rick's partner in the hoax, was fired from his job after the news of the hoax came to light. Although he tried to defend himself, saying it was all just a big joke, Clayton County Police Chief Jeff Turner did not see it that way, and he figured that if Matthew was willing to lie on national news, a defense attorney in any given criminal case could hold that against him in court later on. That's really smart. I never even really considered that. But yeah, imagine you go to like something serious, a serious trial, and then the attorney can just bring up this video of
On cross-examination, you're getting ripped for your
getting
Bigfoot hoax,
roasted. Absolutely
which
roasted.
could set somebody free.
Yeah.
Could set somebody free
Right.
who doesn't deserve to be free, all because you faked killing Bigfoot.
Yeah. And it's probably just an absolute embarrassment to
Oh, to the department?
Yeah, right.
Oh, God, we staffed that guy.
Oh, man. You're toast. But for Rick Dyer, the hoax wasn't over yet.
Rick said,
he
"No,
said, no,
man.
we're going to keep this
I'm
rolling.
going to do it better next time.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn.
I also just want to point out in that video, it's so funny to me that they tried to keep this thing on ice, like in a big cooler, but it had all melted and it just looked gross. It's in like this dirty gray water at the
What they
end
do
of
with it after?
I wonder. It's kind of an expensive suit. I don't know. I hope they still have it today. Only a few years after this, Rick made the exact same claim again.
Has anyone ever heard the story, Boy Who Cried Wolf?
No, I guess not. Boy Who Cried Big Wolf. Boy
Who Cried Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Big Wolf.
The big wolf. So he said again that he killed Bigfoot, but this time instead of Georgia,
He tracked him down to South Texas.
Yeah, South Texas was where he was. And again, he stirred up enough people to make the news again. In one statement, he wrote, and this is verbatim, so I think this is a Facebook post, so there are some weird grammatical things and spelling in this, which makes it even funnier, but this is what he wrote. Quote, "There is zero doubt now that this is real.
Yes. Zero doubt.
And I'm the one that did it. It's big redemption for me, and I'm really happy. And I'm really happy at all the support that I've been given. So thank you. It's going to get bigger, of course, and the reason it's going to get bigger is because I really killed Bigfoot, and now it's hard for people that's not in the Bigfoot world to comprehend. And I know they compare Bigfoot to the tooth fairy or whatever, but I'm here to tell you that's going to stop real quick, because people are starting to comprehend what I did. And when you know the whole story of what happened September 6th of 2012, y'all would be fibroblasted. I believe he meant to say flabbergasted. He wrote fibroblasted. So Rick and his business partner at the time, Andrew Clacy, claimed to have DNA evidence and photo evidence of the creature, just like last time. And they said the body was 7 feet 7 inches tall and weighed more than 500 pounds. So pretty similar to the last time.
They grow bigger in South Texas currently.
Yeah.
Everything's bigger in Texas, including Bigfoot.
Right. The men had started a YouTube channel called Hoax Busters, claiming, quote, "It takes hoaxers to bust a hoax," which is funny to me that they're admitting that they're hoaxers and then they're again perpetuating a hoax.
And they're ripping off Mythbusters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They were probably just trying to follow that
Totally.
train, which that was one of my favorite shows growing
Mythbusters is
up.
a great show.
Rick also started his own channel where he tried to sell $250 DVDs. He constantly...
Of God knows what.
Yeah, right?
Who knows?
I think a lot of it had to do with like Bigfoot tracking because that's what he tried to make money on. But he also constantly posts about Bigfoot and other cryptids like leprechauns, which reminds me of that old...
Wait, wasn't he just complaining about how people compare Bigfoot to the Tooth Fairy?
And then he's throwing
he goes,
leprechauns in there. Yeah.
It's like,
Come on, man.
God.
Reminds me of that old YouTube video where everyone's freaking out about the leprechauns in the tree.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in forever. Pull that up real quick.
That's a good one.
That's a funny-ass video.
Crowds are coming by the dozens to get an up-close view at what some say is a piece of Irish folklore.
Some people in the Crichton area of Mobile say a leprechaun has taken up residence in their neighborhood.
Mobile.
A leprechaun. BC15's Brian Johnson has more.
Curiosity leads to large crowds in Mobile's Crichton community. Many of you bring binoculars, camcorders, even camera phones to take pictures.
Yes.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All you gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else seen the leprechaun? Say yeah!
Eyewitnesses say the leprechaun only comes out at night. If you shine a light in its direction, it suddenly disappears. This amateur sketch resembles what many of you say the leprechaun looks like. Others find it hard to believe and have come up with their own theories and explanations for the image.
My theory is it's casting a shadow from the other limb.
Could be a crackhead who got hold to the wrong stuff and told him to get up in a tree and play a leprechaun.
We're going to get down to the bottom of this. Yeah, still on there, guy. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, man.
This guy helping to direct traffic says he's prepared for his encounter with the leprechaun. He's suited up from head to toe.
This wars off smells right here. This is a special leprechaun flute, which has been passed down from thousands of years ago from my great-great-grandfather.
Thousands.
I just came to help out.
I love this
Others
guy.
just came to get lucky in hopes a pot of gold may be buried under this tree.
I'm going to run a backhoe and uproot that tree. I want to know where the gold at. I want the gold. Give me the gold. I want the gold.
This is Brian Johnson, NBC 15 News.
Oh, man.
I love that video. It also seems like I love this video because they also seem like they're just having fun with it. Like they
nobody's
know
taking it too
it's-
seriously.
Yeah. He says it's a 1,000-year-old flute. Like I feel like
PVC
some of those,
pipe.
yeah. I feel like some of these that they're interviewing, some of these people are just kind of trolling the local news, which is hilarious.
Oh, that's such a great video.
Yeah, I love that one.
It says a crackhead.
yeah. And then the amateur sketch. I love that picture so much.
Looks like a 8-year-old
Right.
sketched out of.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite videos.
Oh, we love cryptozoology, man.
Absolutely.
So much fun.
Absolutely. But yeah, back to Rick. He also ran a website called BigfootTracker.com. I don't think that exists anymore. And while most cryptozoologists are harmless, Rick was quickly seen as a fraud and a stain on the community. I mean, Like, you can imagine you're trying to sell $250 DVDs. You're being a shyster. You've already done the same hoax
Yeah,
before.
people are like, shut the fuck up,
yeah,
Rick.
this guy needs
Tired
to
of your
get out
shit.
of here. Yeah.
Get a job.
Yeah, just get a job, man.
Stop wasting money.
Yeah. So this time he made Bigfoot out of latex, foam, and camel hair. And he also used pork ribs from Walmart doused in his custom-made barbecue sauce. What? He also covered the fake creature in deer urine to make it smell.
Oh my God. Barbecue sauce with
And
deer urine and camel hair. And
That's odd.
Rick's house probably smells like shit.
Yeah. And knowing how much of a shyster he is, I'm wondering if he's using his custom-made barbecue sauce to, like, does he want to start a line of barbecue sauces?
Get your
And this
Bigfoot barbecue
is,
sauce.
Yeah, this is how he plugs it.
Hey, you know what? I'd be more down with that than this hoaxing nonsense.
Right? I know. Just go make your barbecue sauce, man.
So I got a little hungry while making Bigfoot.
Yeah, right. But despite Rick's history of lies, people still fell for his hoax again. He first set it up in a Home Depot parking lot in San Antonio, near where he claimed to have shot Bigfoot in 2012. And then he traveled around the country charging people to see the body. He charged adults $10 and children $5 to take a tour of his rented trailer to see the body of Bigfoot.
Damn. It's like a movie ticket, bro.
Would you pay to see this?
No.
Even if you let's say, even
I
if
mean,
it's like fake and you're just going to go see how stupid it is.
Yeah, I guess I would.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like we would go see it just as like a lights
Yeah,
out feature.
why
or
not? I'd be like,
something.
I got to see what this person came up with.
Yeah.
No.
But then again, I kind of feel bad
But then I'm
supporting
like,
a hoaxer, you know?
He's just scamming you.
Yeah, he's just a scam artist.
Come see my art project, basically.
Right, yeah. Which,
Want
I
some
mean,
ribs?
is kind of what it is. Yeah. I wonder if he was selling his bottles,
Yeah.
too, inside the trailer.
You smell that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my barbecue sauce. Deer urine and barbecue.
So by 2014, this is 2 years after this whole thing again, his business partner, Andrew Clacy, admitted it was all just another hoax, but people were still willing to pay to see the creature. As far as I know, he's not doing this anymore, and today he appears to be a used car salesman, so not that far off from what he was doing before. And he's mostly left the cryptid hunting life behind, thankfully.
Hey, I'm not going to shame another man's hustle, you know?
I am.
I am too.
Hey,
For the used car salesman.
maybe he's
sorry.
wheeling out some deals, but would you trust a deal from Rick?
Probably not.
I got this used car here. It runs. It's fast like a Ferrari, actually.
Yeah.
It's a Ford Taurus, but
You know, I will agree that used car salesmen get bad reputation for that's
like-
kind of unwarranted.
I think it's evolved a bit since back in the day. Now
Yeah.
that everybody shops online,
Yes,
you don't really even need a salesperson anymore.
that's true. And the 2 cars I have bought that were used, those salesmen were perfectly fine. They were willing to haggle with me.
Did they lie to you?
No. I bought 2 really great used cars from both of those gentlemen. So
I wonder if this car dealership knows about his hoaxes.
I wonder too, how
if
could
he,
they
like-
not?
Yeah.
I think he even runs his little YouTube show is like about the cars that he's selling. So they
Maybe it
must
helps
know.
him bring business in.
It might. I mean,
It's kind of
let's
a
get
little.
the notorious guy in here and he'll sell some cars.
He puts the Bigfoot suit on and dances out by the highway.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that's where he's at today. And he mostly just posts videos about buying and selling used cars. So
right,
at least
Rick, we
he
see
tried
you.
to make a more honest living at this rate. But I feel like Rick just gives cryptozoologists a bad name. They already struggle with trying to be legitimate.
People laugh at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying you shouldn't laugh at cryptozoologists. I'm not telling you what to do. If you want to laugh at them, fine. Because sometimes I laugh at them too. But we know it's like, it's an easy target.
They know too.
You know?
They know.
Yeah, they know too. So it's like, then to have this guy Rick come in and be
The hoaxers
total
make it 10
idiot.
times worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they are really, there's a lot of serious people that are looking and, some finding evidence of maybe undiscovered creatures.
I had a neighbor in Michigan, in Hamtramck. He lived a few houses down from me. He was a big Bigfoot hunter. I would go and talk to him about it all the time because he would head up north Michigan all the time with this little crew that he had. And he would come back with hairs. He would package all these little like furs and hairs in these tiny little, like they were like manila, but they were small. They had the little tie on it. And he would keep it all in a bag. And
then DNA test them back at the lab.
Yeah, and he would try and do it he would get Jerry to smell the hairs sometimes because he was like, sometimes dogs are really triggered by real Bigfoot hair. So he would try it. He did a few tests with Jerry to see if some of them were legitimate samples. Yeah.
Were they legitimate?
As far Jerry didn't like mark any of them, which he was kind of bummed about. I could tell he took it pretty seriously, but it was also an excuse for him to just go and hang out and get drunk. But then like he actually did take it seriously, and he had a little Bigfoot statue up on his porch. He lived on the second floor.
We love a Bigfoot stand, you know?
Yeah, he was awesome. I would see him at the bar every once in a while. We would buy each other beer and stuff. He was a super cool guy.
There's a lot of people who believe in cryptids that are grounded in reality still.
Yeah, he wasn't a nut by any means. He was really chill.
There's tons of shows too. I mean, it's, you know, pop on ID Discovery and type in Bigfoot, and there's like 100 hours of Bigfoot content to watch.
Right. Yep.
And there's full-blown series of people. That's all they do is go out and hunt for Bigfoot.
Even if you just do it as a hobby, I think that's really fun. I mean, it has like a strong community of people.
Yeah. There's actually here in Colorado, there's a Bigfoot like summit.
Oh, is there?
Every year. Yeah. Like 2 years ago, I almost went to it. But then some came up, but I wonder if they're still doing it anymore.
It's like a conference.
Yeah, it's like a conference up here in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains where a bunch of like Bigfoot experts all come together and they do like a big kind of conference talking about the latest. And
I respect that.
Stuff. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. How is it any different than any other subject?
Any other hobby? Yeah. Any other like fandom, if you want to put it like that.
I mean, it's really no different than a paranormal investigator.
True.
Ghost hunter.
Same general concept.
Both chasing things that you don't know whether or not they exist. So why not? As long as you're not making shit up and
like
being
Rick.
a shyster.
Yeah, don't be Rick. Don't be Rick. But you believe in Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do believe in Bigfoot. Actually, I think the whole concept and this idea of this intelligent creature that, you know, his origin, I think is still a little cloudy for me, but I think there's a possibility that, you know, if you go all the way back to human evolution through, you know, all the different phases of that, I think it's possible that something that is sort of half man, half ape could have evolved and is hyper intelligent and is capable of staying out of sight.
Yeah.
And then there's also, you know, theories around it being some type of interdimensional creature that can kind of, that's why it's so shifty, is that it can kind of go in and out of different parallel dimensions, things like that, which is also fun to think about. But
one of my favorite theories, I don't know if I've ever told you about this, but Bigfoot, they think that, you know, if you go back biblically, you know, Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden. They had two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain eventually murders Abel. And as punishment by God, he makes Cain wander the earth for forever. And people think that, you know, some people take it as more of a metaphor of maybe what was happening historically in like the Fertile Crescent area. But some people take that literally in that Cain is Bigfoot wandering the earth forever.
All right. Yeah.
I kind of like that theory, at least from like a punishment almost. Like Bigfoot is trapped here forever.
Yeah, kind of similar to La Llorona.
Yeah.
Just constantly her spirits out constantly wandering the earth. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
I think all cryptids are interesting. Mothman's another one that I'm very I lean a bit towards being real in some way.
That's a cool one.
Because there's just so many sightings of it. It's kind of wild.
I've never seen moths like I have here in Colorado. You guys get that season? I think it's coming up soon.
Yes, it is,
baby.
You guys see the craziest moth like storms here almost.
It's like a plague.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
every year.
Yeah, but Mothman, that's a good one. I like that cryptid.
What about you guys? Is there any ones that I know Danny's like, you don't believe in any of them, do you?
I mean, I don't really believe in any of them, but I do have a favorite.
Do you?
What's your favorite?
My favorite is the slide rock bolter.
I don't even know what that is.
I'm going to pull up a picture of it.
Okay.
And I'm going to explain what it is because it's my favorite. Because it's...
Sounds like a Pokemon.
Yeah. That's probably why it's his favorite. I know.
Daniel's
a big Pokemon.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think you've showed this to me before.
I might have showed you guys you before.
Whoa.
It's a fucking mountain.
So the slide rock bolter is a bizarre creature and fearsome critter recounted by the lumberjacks of North America during the 19th and early 20th centuries. It is believed to live in the mountains of Colorado, but only on mountains where the slope is at an angle greater than 45 degrees. It has an immense head, small eyes, and a large mouth, which is similar to a sculpin. Its tail ends in a fluke like a dolphin with enormous grab hooks. So essentially, it uses its tail to hold on to the top of mountains, and when it sees its prey at the bottom of the mountain, it lets go, and it uses its drool, which is described to be the consistency of grease, to slide down the mountain, flattening and engulfing everything down the mountain, and then sliding back up to the other side of a mountain, over it, and then hooking back on.
Nice.
And just for our listeners, this creature is supposed to be the size of a blue whale.
Wow.
Jeez.
So this is a land blue whale in Colorado.
Oh, look, the people running right there. Oh, man.
It is my absolute favorite because it is so ridiculous. And
That's a cool illustration of it.
It is said to have been killed by using a explosive filled dummy. And it supposedly the explosion was so big that it flattened the town of Rico, Colorado.
Jesus Christ. Was this a prehistoric creature that survived the meteors? Like,
Yeah, they forgot to kill that one off. Oh my God, that's wild.
I have a feeling that this thing did not have enough to eat.
Yeah. He was starving out there. That's wild.
Yeah, that's one you don't hear every day.
No,
Slide rock bolter.
I like how it's specific to the region. Like it needs mountains to hang on, and that's kind of how it feeds. Is that it rushes down the mountain? That's awesome.
But Austin, what is your favorite cryptid?
So I do. This is a hard one. I'm gonna give some shout outs to. I do love Michigan Dogman is a big one back in Michigan. A lot of the people who go Bigfoot hunting they got their eyes peeled for the Michigan Dogman. And then there's also a crazy one. I think it's in Lake Superior. So it comes from the Ojibwe, because I believe they were in like northern Michigan was a region they were in, but it's called
Mishipeshu.
That's it. It's called Mishipeshu, and it's just this huge water snake that they think, I believe, is in Lake Superior, and it's been hinted at for centuries, really. That one's nuts to me. So shout out to both of those, Michigan Dogman and Mishipeshu.
I believe Mishipeshu more than I believe the slide rock bolter.
That one's, you would think we would have evidence of that thing existing. And that's the cool part about Lake Superior. It's so vast. It's like an ocean. So you can kind of believe that there's some crazy creatures down in there. But I'm very fond of the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, Jersey Devil's sick.
I like them. I like the regional stuff. And that's why I like the huge whale coming down the mountainside in Colorado is sweet.
The Beast of Bladenboro is pretty cool too.
What's
it's like
that
a
one?
big ass Black Panther from North Carolina.
That's cool.
Pretty sweet.
Nice. Yeah, I like the region-based cryptids. I always find those fascinating.
But there's endless cryptids.
The jackrabbit?
Yeah. Well, the jackrabbit's real.
Well, there's no rabbits with horns.
No, you're talking about jackalope.
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 I'm so sorry.
No, there are legitimate
jackalopes
jackrabbits.
are not real.
Yes, I love jackalopes. Yeah. I've seen one. Yeah.
Jackrabbits are not real.
Jackalopes.
Yeah. Jackrabbits are huge, though. Have you ever seen a jackrabbit?
No.
Big ass rabbits.
Do you have any jackrabbits at home?
No.
Because I know you got
I have a big ass rabbit. I have a Flemish giant rabbit. But,
Flemish giant.
But jackrabbits are, they like the way that they're just tall.
Oh, okay.
So like they're out in the plains. I think I'm trying to remember. It was either when I lived in southeastern Colorado, or it was possibly when I was in Oklahoma, like out in the prairie. There's like these big ass rabbits.
Really?
They're really tall, and they can jump like miles.
Really?
Like they can clear an entire road. Like
It's insane.
Yeah.
So you couldn't domesticate one of those things, really?
No,
It'd be kind of hard.
Rabbits are some of the most destructive creatures. Seriously, like if you want to destroy your home or apartment, get a rabbit. They will destroy everything.
Don't you have like...
I have 3.
Yeah.
And I have them in a room that I made just for them special because I literally couldn't put baseboards in their room because they will destroy the baseboards. They'll chew it all up.
Damn.
So I have big ass, like 12-inch tall tile lining the entire room.
Wow.
I have no carpet in there. Well, I have a like carpet that's like the really low profile carpet that they can't rip up. But when we first got rabbits, we had them in our room, just a spare bedroom. They ripped up the entire carpet, dude.
Damn.
They go into the corners and start ripping it up.
Whoa.
And there's just carpet shreds everywhere. And then, rabbits.
Are they trying to burrow? Is that like, what are they doing?
No, they will try to burrow if they are pregnant, which we adopted a pregnant rabbit. It's a whole other story. But she actually was able to, the HVAC vents in the floor, how they're on the floor sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so she tried to get in there?
She got in it.
Whoa.
She literally pulled up the metal grate for the HVAC vent and then crawled into it, dude.
Whoa.
And we freaked the fuck out because we're like,
yeah,
we couldn't. She went down into it too.
Oh my God.
To where you couldn't see her anymore. She just disappeared. We went in her room like,
where did she go?
Where did she go? And then I noticed the grate was moved. And then I looked down in there and I could barely see her tail in the HVAC vent. And we were freaking the fuck out. We're like, what do we do? Do we call the fire department to cut open the floor of our house to get the rabbit out? And eventually I just stuck my hand down there, grabbed my rabbit by its butt, like just palmed it, and then just basically ripped her out of it. But the reason why she went in there is because she was burrowing because she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And we had no idea she was pregnant.
Oh, so then it all made sense afterwards.
Well, we didn't know. Even after that, we didn't know.
Oh,
well, after she gave birth, yeah.
Right. Then you were like, oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Rabbits look for a hole to give birth in. And she would have died in there, though, had we left her.
Oh, my God. That's so crazy.
And she's like a 12-pound rabbit.
Damn. Speaking of X-Files, there's a crazy X-Files episode. It's the guy who goes through the vents.
Oh.
He like elongates his body and just gets in the vent somehow. That was the scariest episode ever.
People still do that shit now. They find people crawling into like vents and dying and...
Good God.
Oh, wild shit. Well, anyways.
Yeah, back on track here.
Back on track. Let's talk about an accidental time traveler. One evening in mid-June 1951, around 11:15 p.m., people were hustling, bustling through New York City's Times Square. Dozens watched as a man roughly 30 years old, dressed in late 19th century clothing, appeared disoriented and confused in the middle of Times Square. Some people reported that he crouched and covered his head as if he feared that the tall buildings were going to collapse around him, which honestly, I kind of relate to that. That was my first thoughts being in New York City. I was like,
yeah. How are these standing?
I can't even
tall?
See the sky.
Yeah.
These buildings are so big.
Yeah.
But then moments later, a taxi cab slammed into him, causing a massive panic. Witnesses ran to help, but the man soon died from his injuries. An ambulance later picked him up, and once declared dead, he was transported to a morgue. New York police investigated the body, where they found the following items inside the man's pockets: a copper pub token for a beer worth 5 cents, bearing the name of an unknown saloon, a paper bill for the care of a horse and washing of a carriage at a livery stable on Lexington Avenue. But police couldn't find any stable listed in the New York City address book. There's also roughly $70 in old U.S. banknotes. A business card was found with the name Rudolph Fence on it, and police assumed that this was the name of the man who had died, but they weren't 100% sure. The card also had an address on Fifth Avenue. Another item found on the man was a letter from Philadelphia dated June 1876, sent to the address on the business card. And the last item was a third-place medal for a 3-legged race. Very strange. As for the man's clothes, they appear to be about 75 years out of style. They also had tags from a tailor that no one in the police force had even heard of. Police noticed that even the letter from 1876 and the banknotes from around the same time didn't show much sign of wear and tear. They were near mint, which was odd for how old they were. Captain Hubert V. Richmond of the Missing Persons Department of the NYPD tried using the items to identify this dead man. So he looked into the address on Fifth Avenue that was listed on the business card. But the business owner did not know any man named Rudolph Fence. His fingerprints were also not on file, and no one had been recently reported missing. so Captain Rim continued the search. Rudolph's name was not listed in any address book, but he soon found a man named Rudolph Fentz Jr. in a 12-year-old telephone book. Unfortunately, the man retired in 1940, then moved to Florida and passed away in 1956, but his widow was still alive in Florida.
So after contacting the widow, Captain Rim discovered that her husband's father, who was Rudolph Fentz, actually disappeared in 1876 at the age of 29. Reportedly, he left the house for a night walk around 10 p.m. and never returned. When they searched for him, it seemed he had vanished without a trace. So confused, Captain Rim returned to the station and checked the missing persons file for a Rudolph Fentz, which dated back to 1876. He was shocked to discover that the description of the man from the police report in 1876, including his age and clothing, corresponded exactly to the appearance of the man who was hit and killed by the taxi in Times Square in 1951. Fearing he would be held mentally incompetent and relieved of his duties, Captain Rim did not include the results of his investigation in the official case file. So this mysterious time traveler account eventually became a very popular urban legend by the late 1900s, and especially among Europe's paranormal research community. In the 1970s, this account appeared in a 1972 May-June issue of the Journal of Borderland Research, and this was a publication dedicated to ufology and parapsychology. They had published this account of Rudolph Fentz, framing it as a factual report and evidence of time travel. They believed that an invisible time portal had opened between 19th century New York and the New York of 1950. And Rudolph had walked right through it. By the 1980s and 90s, many had circulated this story, especially as the internet became more popular, and many took this story as fact. But by 2002, a folklore researcher named Chris Obeck looked into the case of Rudolph Fentz. Chris was a London expat living in Spain who researched supernatural phenomena, and he was able to actually track the source of the Borderland research publication down to an Ohio writer named Ralph M. Holland, who wrote a fictional story called A Voice from the Gallery, and it was about this specific incident, and it was published in 1953. And after posting his findings, another man, Pastor George Murphy, then recognized that Ralph M. Holland's story was heavily inspired by a short story called I'm Scared by renowned sci-fi writer Jack Finney, published in Collier's magazine in 1951. The narrator of this fictional sci-fi story was who other than Captain Hubert V. Rim. The story is about him giving his opinions on the case of a fictional Rudolph Fentz. So in the original story, Captain Rim had also picked up on these other crazy time riffs, like a man receiving a phone call from his sister that she insisted she hadn't made until 3 days later, a bank discovering a check that had been deposited the day before it was written, a letter that was mailed from Wyoming was somehow delivered to a New York City address just 17 minutes later, and a man was shot and killed by a gun that police had impounded the day before. Oddly enough, this completely fictional time-traveling story would go on to be treated as fact for decades until Chris Obeck finally identified it as a fictional story nearly 50 years later. And many have compared this to how Orson Welles read The War of the Worlds on the radio, which caused mass hysteria back in 1938 because people thought that there was an actual real alien invasion occurring. Crazy how the internet also contributes something like this. It's kind of a long game of telephone. Things just get spread to the point where you're like, oh, this is true. But I find it fascinating that it comes from a completely fictional story that eventually, as it's passed on.
Yeah, sounded legit.
Yeah.
You're like,
right?
holy shit.
This is awesome.
Yeah, time traveler stories I feel like are especially kind of easy to get people confused about. I mean, there's so many time traveler stories and alleged, people have come forward claiming to be time travelers all over YouTube and stuff, because I think we're all fascinated by the idea of a time traveler and time traveling in general, that we for some reason, I feel like we're all a little bit more susceptible to these types of stories being real.
Sure.
Just because we don't want it to end.
Right.
And the idea of it, we like it so much that I feel like most of us are more apt to believe in them. One that is very, very interesting to me that could also be a hoax, but I like to tend to be on the believer side of it, is the John Teeter story. Have you ever heard of John Teeter?
No, what did he propose?
Well, he actually predicted a lot of events.
Okay.
But he was I believe he was a military guy. It's been a minute since I've covered John Teeter, but basically he was this military officer from the year 2036. He first appeared on online forums in the early 2000s, and he shared detailed accounts of his supposed travels, including descriptions of future events, technology, societal changes. And his story just absolutely captured everybody. I did a whole episode on Mile Higher probably a few years ago on John Teeter in great detail, because you could go into like an hour plus on his whole story. There's definitely not, there's a lot of speculation about who he was. Did he disappear? He communicated through these online forums, though, which was kind of interesting for him. But yeah, a lot of people believe that this was a legitimate time traveler. Other people think he was a hoax. Maybe it's one that we could take a look at on Lights Out at some point. But it's I think it's really, I think the internet did help to sort of perpetuate these especially time traveler claims quite a bit, because it's, I don't know, well, you're open to a much larger audience, and people, again, I think are just so fascinated by the idea of John Teeter that we're willing to maybe lower our, standards of proof to just believe in it. It's kind of fun, because the internet's kind of an escape in a way, right? So I think
it's fun. Yeah. I think the only time it's not fun is when I get into time travel paradoxes, and it makes me feel sick to my stomach, like reading into those. Like things are just in an infinite loop, or like there's always one where if time travel somehow exists at other points in time, then it would exist everywhere, because we would it would just be spread rapidly throughout time. Or there's a million time travel,
like the grandfather's paradox.
Which one is
that's kind of the one that you were describing. The grandfather paradox is a self-contradictory scenario in time travel where a person travels back in time and kills their grandfather before he can have children, which then prevents the person's birth and existence, and therefore their ability to travel back in time and kill their grandfather.
Gotcha. It's almost like Back to the Future, where he has to get his parents together, or else he'll fade away. Or it's like there's a Futurama episode where Fry goes back in time and then he actually has sex with his grandmother, so he is his own grandfather.
Exactly like that.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, time travel is definitely one of my favorite just topics to think about.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's limitless possibilities. I've also heard of it's like we couldn't really go to other times because our immune systems would get so messed up. Like if you try to go too far in the future, superbugs and like our immunities would be so drastically different. Just other pathogens and other things would be so drastically changed that we'd almost die immediately. You get out of the little,
damn, that's grim.
It opens up and then you just get sick and die. Yeah.
Can't even breathe the air.
Right. Yeah.
So polluted in the future.
Yeah.
Everybody's suited up.
It's just a sea of gas.
Like, what the You're out.
Yeah. Yeah. Time travel is fun to think about, though. I like the idea.
You know, it's also fun. Twilight.
We love
vampires.
Twilight.
We love vampires.
Yeah, they got so corny. Real quick.
Why they gotta do it like that? Right? And it was so good. Well, let's talk about a real life vampire, because they exist. And they're legit.
They're out there.
No one's more legit than Balthazar Ashantason.
Yep. I hear the new Nosferatu movie is good. It kind of brings back some cool vampires again.
Can we get back to
they got really lame because of Twilight.
They got too emotional.
They got way too emotional.
It's just.
You ever gone back and watched those movies? They're actually hilarious to watch now. They're so cringy. I haven't watched
them since high school, probably.
If you're looking for a good cringe watch, the Twilight movies are awesome.
Oh, man.
You just see Robert Pattinson looking super moody constantly.
Yeah.
He's got that little glow to him.
I really liked Van Helsing.
Oh, yeah. I forgot
That's a
about
good-
that movie.
that's a good
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the earlier vampire movies that I watched. And
I
was
remember
like, oh,
that.
this is kind of badass.
Yeah. Make
Then I watched
vampires
Twilight and I
cool
was
again.
like, the
yeah,
fuck
this
is
is totally
this?
ruined. Yeah.
I don't care about this. I just want to see people get their blood sucked, get their faces ripped off.
Let's do it up. Yeah, like violence.
Yeah.
They're like shooting. He
Yeah.
has that crazy crossbow.
Give me
Van
some
Helsing.
28 Days Later or something.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanna
That's a
see
sweet
some-
movie.
I don't want to see vampires lovemaking. What is this?
Well, some of us do, man.
True. It's got great music. Well, anyways, the concept of vampires dates back centuries, but with the massive rise in popularity in 2000s, all the books and movies and people claiming to be real vampires also boomed around the same time. Organizations like the New Orleans Vampire Association, or NOVA, became a large community for these people. Outsiders saw this niche group as a place of acceptance, and its founder has proposed that he is truly a vampire who needs to drink human blood to provide him sustenance, energy, and good vibes. Balthazar Ashantazan says that he suffers from a physiological condition that prevents him from, quote, creating enough of the essential daily energies to get through even the basic tasks.
All right.
Can't take a shit without some blood. And he calls non-vampiric people mundanes.
Oof. That hurts, man.
It does. Take that personal. Balthazar is originally from Indiana, but moved down to New Orleans when he was young. He worked some odd jobs until he found consistent work at a voodoo shop called Voodoo Authentica. Here he trained as a voodoo priest, but he says that's separate from his vampiric personality.
All right.
Let's hear from Balthazar himself.
Yeah, what's
At
he
Voodoo
doing?
Fest 2014.
Oh, yeah.
We're not ready to leave.
Hell yeah.
Just the truth.
So how does the spirit stay behind and not a soul? I don't understand.
Spirit's just energy, just like the soul.
Okay.
But the spirit is what contains the memories, the emotional content
From that particular life.
from that particular life. That's why most people who get that feeling of, I think I've done this before. Because, probably in a past life you did.
I like his get up.
Speaking of past lives, I
Yeah.
can remember 4 vividly.
That's
All right.
Here we go.
Vividly.
Were you a vampire?
If I focus on my favorite one, I can even remember how he died.
Oh,
Wow.
tell us.
Yeah, tell us.
I can even feel where the arrow went. But there's an old
Van Helsing.
Yeah.
saying in voodoo, your children are your parents from another life.
All right.
Your children are
So
your...
guess what? That energy, that family energy, sooner or later comes back around.
I've heard that you tend to be reincarnated with your
Why are we...
family.
Dude, I want to
Not
hear your
always.
vampiric personality.
Sometimes you tend to be reincarnated with your enemies too.
Just not-
Okay. Does he talk about being a vampire in this?
Mm-mm.
Wait.
This is just his voodoo side of
Point
things.
is,
So he's hiding.
a lot of
Mhm.
times when dealing with spirit energy, when dealing with the dead, it is just dealing with the spirit, not the soul. Spirit.
Yeah, we can cut it there. So,
If you want to see the full sermon,
yeah,
link
very
below
long.
from Voodoo Fest 2014.
I love that video because it's those awkward long pauses of nothing, and you're like, what is this guy even saying? So I think that video gives a good representation of kind of who he is.
Especially as we go forward
Yeah.
with explaining more of his vampiric practices.
Mhm.
It's pretty wild. So according to Balthazar, he first showed vampire tendencies when he was 11 years old. This was the same age that he realized he was gay. He had a violent temper and was often sick throughout his youth. It was around this time that he had an uncle who always picked on his sister, and one day he snapped and attacked his uncle. His uncle locked him in a bear hug, so Balthazar lashed his teeth onto his uncle's neck and bit down. He claimed that he bit all the way through his uncle's coat, sweater, shirt, undershirt, and then flesh, dude.
Wow.
When he got his first taste of blood, he liked it, and he's been a sanguinarian ever since. Drinking human blood is the only real connection Balthazar has to a stereotypical vampire seen in movies. He has no adverse effects from daylight or garlic. He loves his garlic pasta. No, I just made that up, but he claims that if he doesn't drink human blood, he feels completely drained, and he insists that drinking blood is the only way for him to stay healthy. He once explained his diet saying, quote, "You can eat all the food you want, but you just never seem to have enough energy. You can eat properly, you can exercise, you can take vitamin B shots up the ass."
Which I do.
But you never seem to have enough energy. Maybe because you're taking them up the ass. So you have to take it from an outside source, and guess what? My source is blood, and not just any blood, human blood. Catherine Romsland, professor of forensic psychology at DeSales University and author of The Science of Vampires, has spent years studying the vampire subculture. And she said, quote, "Some people are misfits. Some people are just creative people who don't feel they fit into normal society. Some people find the vampire a very empowering figure, and they want to identify with that. In her studies, these self-described vampires claim the same thing Balthazar claimed, that they have some sort of energy leak. It makes them depressed and lethargic, and the only way to treat it is to drink human blood."
I think there may be some other routes you could take before getting to this.
Power green smoothie or something.
Yeah, some nutrients, some proper nutrients.
A wheatgrass shot.
Yeah, some exercise.
Well, Balthazar is an author and spiritual consultant, as you heard, his wise words, who's claimed he's been drinking blood since 1978, man.
Wow.
He's one of the original ones. And he's survived off of drinking the blood of consenting followers and admirers for years. In the 2010s, he claimed he had 4 consistent donors at the time, and they apparently all sought him out. And up until then, he had about 30 to 40 donors throughout the years. He also claims that he has strict rules with his donors. He claims he's never slept with a donor, he gets tested with them regularly, and he provides them a Bill of Rights. And he never drinks from the same person twice in a row. Clean. Healthy.
Apparently healthy.
A great alternative lifestyle.
Yeah. As for how he obtains the blood too, he says that he uses what he calls a, quote, clean technique rather than drawing blood with needles, which is funny because I think actually like a clean technique would be safely drawing, safely drawing blood and then drinking it. But here's what he calls his clean technique. He gargles mouthwash. He brushes
with alcohol?
He brushes his teeth. And he cleans the incision site with hydrogen peroxide. Then he makes a small cut, which is usually on the back, with a brand new X-Acto knife. And then he sucks the blood from the wound, usually a maximum of 6 ounces.
So he's just putting his lips to the back.
Directly to somebody's wound. Yeah.
For 6 ounces?
For 6 ounces, maximum.
How much blood is pouring out of your back?
I don't know. As much as he could suck out of it.
This must be a pretty big incision if he's getting 6 ounces.
6 ounces is quite a lot.
Unless he's just sucking on this person's back for hours.
Just stay there.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
Lay down. He's like a leech. He's just like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he does it. I think it's also like a way to prove he does it like vampiric style. I'm actually sucking the blood out of someone.
Gotcha.
In 2009, he admitted to drinking blood or feeding on what he called, quote, psychic energy 2 to 3 times per week. He's also described the taste of different types of blood in detail. He said, quote, there are flavors in human blood from salty to sweet. Some of them have more iron in their system and so have a more coppery tang. You can tell when someone isn't getting enough fatty acids because their blood is bland. You can tell when someone isn't drinking enough because it won't bleed freely. So yeah, there are a lot of components food-wise. I notice people who have a restrictive diet tend to be lacking in certain things. For me, the perfect blood has a little bit of a coppery tang, but it's also between that salty and sweet range, and blood type does play into it. I'm more fond of A positive. Balthazar's donors follow a specific diet. He increases their water intake and requires them to eat meat from land animals combined with some greens. Their snacks can be oranges, bananas, and pineapples to increase their magnesium and potassium levels, which he believes influences the flavor of their blood.
Who are these people?
Yeah, what?
That they're following a strict diet for this guy.
Yeah, and according to him, they're the ones reaching out.
Yeah.
To be like, hey,
I want to be
you to
your
this.
blood servant.
Yeah. Very odd.
Whatever.
Maybe it's some sort of kink or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's
really
a club for everything.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe if you want to be feasted on by a vampire.
Yeah, that's your thing.
That's your thing, man.
I guess. So you're probably wondering, like, where is the hoax in all this? Well, the hoax is that obviously there's no known physiological benefit to drinking human blood.
But even a psychic one?
Yeah. Well, yeah, psychic energy.
Not a
how
hoax.
are we even going to prove that? But even though, Balthazar would disagree with me, and he even said, quote, "You have people who believe that it is a condition of the soul. And then you have people who believe that it is a physiological condition. I personally believe it is a physiological condition. Others think it's a mental or emotional condition. Other people believe it's any combination of them."
Didn't he say he's already dead? In that, he was like literally, he opened up his talk there. He was like, I'm already dead or something.
Did he say that? Well, he might have. I know he was
believes
talking
he's
about,
like not even
previous
alive
lives.
right now.
Wow.
So what so what is going on? So he lives off of this psychic energy, I assume, which is keeping this version of himself alive because he's already dead, according to him.
Sure.
I swear to God, that's what I thought I heard him say at the beginning of that. Could be wrong, but
I mean, he does say he believes this is a physiological condition. So like, of the body. So I don't really know. It's almost unclear exactly what he thinks the blood is doing, other than just giving him the energy. I don't really understand.
He clearly just likes the taste because he's like tailoring it to that.
Yeah, true. There are hints of
doesn't change the chemical makeup of the blood. It's just the taste for him.
Maybe it is just a flavor thing. I don't know.
Just get some blood orange Kool-Aid or something, bro. Like,
just eat really poorly cooked liver. He'll probably get what he's looking for. But regardless of what anyone thinks, we should clarify there are severe health risks to drinking blood.
Warning.
If you
disclaimer.
Yeah. If you didn't already know this, but since humans mostly cook their meat, we didn't develop as many digestive protections against blood, and the risks include bloodborne illnesses, food poisoning, and diseases such as hepatitis B, hepatitis C, norovirus, or HIV. Hemochromatosis can also occur, which is when the body absorbs too much iron, not to mention that drinking human blood is illegal in many places. Even in Louisiana, where Balthazar lives, there's a law that prohibits ritualistic acts that include ingesting human or animal blood. Specifically, the punishment is imprisonment up to 5 years and a fine of $5,000 or both. Although the First Amendment upholds animal sacrifices for religious purposes, which might include drinking blood, this doesn't mean that people who practice ritualistic animal sacrifice are safe from state animal cruelty laws. But, there might be some weird loopholes for consenting adults. I don't really understand it, but
so he puts this info out publicly.
Yeah, it's weird. And even when they interviewed, I think Vice interviewed him back 2016 or something like that. He doesn't drink blood in front of them. They don't participate in the drinking blood. They have like some weird curdled animal's blood or something. That's some traditional thing in New Orleans. And they ate some weird bloody meat.
Blood sausage.
Blood sausage. That's what they eat in that article. But yeah, because I mean, it's illegal. So I think they were covering their ass to be like, we can't actually have any of this going down.
Yeah, I'm going to do bloodletting here today.
Yeah. And then it's also just important to note, although all this is gross and very weird, the New Orleans Vampire Association, NOVA, that we mentioned earlier, they gave back to their community for many years by running an annual food drive in the historic French Quarter Park for the homeless for many years after Hurricane Katrina. So there's some little bit of positivity to come out of this.
We love to see it.
Yeah.
We love to see the vampire stepping up.
Yeah. But I mean, if you had to say, what, is this a condition of physiology, the soul, mental, emotional? Where do you think this is stemming from? This need?
You want to ask a harder question?
Like, what do you think?
I don't know, man.
What's the compulsion here? Why does he genuinely think like this actually gives him energy?
Or is this just to be different and be a part of a subculture?
I think that might be a part of it too.
That like, there's a kind of a wow factor.
Right. Yeah. Right? That's what I mean. That's what that professor.
If I'm judging a book by its cover,
mm-hmm.
the way that he looked at Voodoo Fest,
he's a little bit of a
character. He's portraying himself in such a way that people receive him in such a way, that he wants, and I think this is part of it. As long as you're not hurting people, I don't care like what you do. If that's your thing, fine. If people are consenting to do it, fine. Like it doesn't bother me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And again, everybody can believe what they want about what these different things and different lifestyles do for you. And does it actually have anything to do with your soul? I don't know. I do find it interesting though, that the idea of, bloodletting and ritualistic blood sacrifices have been around for thousands of years, going back to ancient times. So I think part of me thinks that there may be something to it. I think there's some power derived in blood. Would I participate? Probably not, unless it was explained in a way that made sense to me personally. But I've yet to hear that. Any reason? Would I try like animal's blood? Sure, but human blood? I've tried my own human blood, like when I cut myself or something.
You get a crazy handnail.
Or paper cut or something like that, and you taste it, and I definitely don't have a
palate for it.
Definitely not like,
well, that's good.
I want some more of that.
Yeah.
So
I've no reason to drink any blood, animal or human. I think I'd probably check out that. I mean, I'd if there was something that came along, I'd have to be really, really convinced that there was
if there's like scientific evidence that came out that was like drinking humans' blood multiplies your blood count and has all these benefits, then I think it'd
be kind of wild. Yeah.
But if there's absolutely no benefit to doing it,
no, if anything, it's a detriment to your health.
Major risk. Yeah.
So I'd probably just avoid it.
I probably wouldn't even take the chance on doing it in the way that I'd want to make 1000% sure I'm drinking clean blood, that's been run through a machine.
Yeah. And he says, he gets everyone tested and whatnot. And I mean, I almost don't even believe that he drinks that much blood on his day. He said, 2 to 3 times a week or something like that. I don't even really believe that he's doing it.
I'd be curious to know more about Balthazar's donors. Who are they? Let's
go interview them. Yeah.
I want to know what's going
on, dude.
Because something, I don't know about you, but something about this whole situation seems a little fishy to me.
Yeah.
What is this a sexual thing, or is this
that
truly
was my
a
first thought.
Spiritual? Like, I need this, I need this soul, this energy from, people to help me sustain, or is it there's some, like you keep saying, it's kink to it?
Yeah, I think that's the first thing I think of, and
I know some people are into that. And
that's, and knowing, I don't know, kind of fringe niche groups like this, I feel like there's always a sexual component to it. Maybe that's just me.
Well, I think that's just the reality of what we've discovered on this show, especially.
Right, yeah, almost always. So that's kind of what I think. But I don't know. I do also think that communities like this, for misfits or for people who don't think that they kind of fit into quote unquote normal society, or they're rejects, they're outcasts, whatever label you want to put on them. Half of me is happy that these groups and communities exist. What they're doing specifically might concern me, but you know what? I'm glad there are communities out there for people who feel like they maybe don't fit in elsewhere. I think that's the one good thing that comes out of this.
Hey, people dress up as knights and hit each other with pool noodles in the forest.
Yeah,
LARPing.
I would LARP. Would LARP.
Yeah, I'm waiting to LARP. I'm been ready to LARP.
There's a huge LARPing community at my university.
Is there really?
They would meet once a week in like this huge field on campus.
Looks so fun.
Yeah, it was sick. I wish I participated.
Yeah.
But I was just sitting there in judgment. And I just wanted to join. So I should have done that instead.
Danny, what do you think? What do you make of all this? I'm curious to know your thoughts. Would you partake?
I've actually tried pig's blood before.
You sicko.
Well, we were making blood sausage, so we had to render the blood, and I tried it, and it's not good. The blood sausage tastes good, but raw pig's blood, it's not tasty.
Yeah.
Oh, very, very metallic-y, very irony.
Yeah. We're not talking about pig's blood. We're talking about human blood.
I know, but I mean, I've tried my own blood and my own. And
what'd you think?
Very irony.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I feel like it's also kind of like how people like to smell their own farts. You know, it's like
what? Who says that?
No, don't you deny
that
it
before.
Don't you deny it.
You know, everyone likes their own brand at least a little bit, right?
Yeah, but is it a Fat Bastard from Austin Powers? I think said that.
Yeah.
Everybody loves their own brand. Yeah.
But I would not consume human blood. It's not my thing.
You ever know any vampires back in the day?
I mean, I've met a few people who like would consider themselves like vamps, like they're part of the vampire scene, which is like just an alternative like emo scene.
Because there's like music
yeah
groups that kind of play into the whole vampire thing for sure.
And I've definitely met some people like that, and they never drank blood or anything, and I don't know if I could get behind this. Like, of course, if it's between two consenting adults, it's not hurting anybody else, do whatever, but do it away from me.
Yeah.
I feel like most people that I've heard of being in this vampire scene just get like fangs. You know, they just rock the
They
thing.
just want to look
People
cool.
get their like teeth shaved down. That's like a thing now. Like get your teeth shaved down so you can have like nice empiric fangs. You know, watch out. It's kind of hot, honestly. You know,
there you go. Now
a
you
lady
get it.
vampire. Like
now you get
bite
it,
you.
Josh. See, it always comes back to sex.
It does.
Vampires are sexy.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I watched Nosferatu.
Yeah, you're not lying. Not lying. But anyways, back to pig.
Anyway, yeah,
Got some pig news for you.
Yeah.
And
this is weird.
Yeah, just when you thought it couldn't get any grosser, it does. On September 3rd, 2011, a Guatemalan news channel made national headlines when they reported the birth of a misshapen pig. The piglet looked like it had a face more similar to a human, and the night before that piglet was born, villagers claimed they saw unexplained bright lights hovering in the sky above the village. The local media immediately ran with the theory that extraterrestrials had something to do with this humanoid piglet, and they theorized that aliens had been genetically tampering with livestock, or maybe it was just the radiation from their spaceships that was causing birth defects. Take a look with caution. All right.
So there's a weird looking pig.
There's no eyes.
Yep. A few teeth in there and then a tongue hanging out.
They're clearly pig's feet.
Yeah, very clearly.
The hell? I just feel bad for this
I
thing,
know,
man.
right?
Like, what are we doing here? This
very weird looking face. Did you ever ever take a bio class? Yeah. Did you have to dissect frogs or pigs? Because in college I took a biology class. We dissected fetal pigs.
little
like not fully developed.
I did that in high school.
Yeah, and specifically because they are like the closest we really have to humans, like in human.
Oh, you didn't dissect a human?
I tried to, but
my college
the teacher was like, "No."
Had an after hours class where we
let me bring out the real crazy shit.
We visited the body farm.
Yeah, body farms. Those are wild
too. Yeah.
But no,
they are the closest to like human anatomy.
Yeah, like their organs, where they're placed, and everything, and just the physiology of them.
So it's not out of the question that their faces
look like humans. Yeah, right.
Well, the Guatemalan villagers were not alone. For years, countless more reports of piglets being born with human-like features have been reported all over the world. And just earlier this year, in January, a man in the Philippines, Alfredo Cardenas Jr., claimed that the pig looked just like a human baby, and even cried like one too. But this video of this deformed pig got over 1.5 million views on Facebook, and videos like these always seem to capture people's attention from around the world, so it's no surprise that many jump straight to alien conspiracy with this.
Yeah, so to help explain the piglet stuff, we're going to jump over to livestock in general.
Livestock mutilation phenomenon.
This has been a big thing since the 70s. So For decades, aliens intervening with livestock, that's been a common problem. The livestock being tampered with mostly, they're usually cattle, but that ranges pretty broadly from my understanding. I mean, it is a lot of farm animals that has been brought up through the years, but we'll be focusing more on the cattle industry. This dates back to the 1970s when small-time ranchers in the U.S. began finding countless bovine corpses mutilated on their properties. Cows' ears, eyes, udders, anuses, sex organs, and tongues were often discovered to be removed with what appeared to be a sharp, clean instrument.
That's probably the most important thing with this whole phenomenon is the fact that these parts are removed with like surgical precision.
Right.
How ranchers and people that find their livestock mutilated in this way describe it. It is they like can't wrap their head around it because it is so precise in the way that they're cut out that it just defies all explanation.
Yeah. And these ranchers, they also have reported that the cows had been drained of blood. Speaking of, it's a exsanguination, I believe is the word.
I think Balthazar's.
Yeah, right. That's right. I think Balthazar might be around here killing off these cows. No tracks or footprints were found nearby, which was odd, and this caused a surge of speculation what could be killing the cattle. Between April and October of 1975, nearly 200 cases of cattle mutilation were reported in the state of Colorado alone. It was such a problem that Colorado Senator Floyd Haskell asked the FBI to get involved.
Because he thinks there's crime going on here.
Yeah, that's a lot of cases, right?
Somebody out here murdering cattle.
Right. So by 1979, thousands of cows had been killed and mutilated, costing millions in damages. And the FBI finally did get involved, and many claimed that the violence might have been caused by something unexplainable, like aliens testing weapons or performing autopsies. But by 1980, the FBI closed their investigation, saying the cases involving the alleged mutilations were just attacks by common predators. Locals still disagreed. Some believe these bovines were killed by religious fanatics who needed a blood sacrifice. Many law enforcement agencies in the U.S. and Canada blamed cults or Satanists for the mutilations.
Satanic panic.
Yeah, definitely. Others thought the federal government had been testing bioweapons on their cattle at night, and this is crazy, but ranchers in Nebraska even began shooting at nearby helicopters, causing the National Guard to fly at 2,000 feet rather than 1,000 feet for safety. Others blame skinwalkers, which has opened up debates about the shape-shifting creatures that are, still talked about to this day.
Which, to be fair with the helicopter thing, a lot of ranchers claim that these were military-style helicopters that had no markings whatsoever.
So they couldn't even identify.
They weren't able to identify because they are not dumb. They're not going to like shoot at something that says U.S. military,
start a war.
Yeah. So they claim these were unidentified, unmarked military-style helicopters that were just flying around, which kind of, goes into the whole conspiracy of the black helicopters thing.
And not even specifically, like it wasn't even U.S. helicopters. It could have been any types of helicopters. They were just kind of indiscriminately shooting at helicopters. So specifically, the National Guard was like, hey, we've caught on to these farmers shooting at helicopters. So whenever you're crossing these regions,
fly a little higher.
Up higher. Yeah. So in the years since, many have tried to understand what was really going on back in the 70s. So according to agricultural historian Michael Goldman, unexplained cattle death has always been a part of ranching. And it turned out that the cattle deaths were no higher year to year during the time of the reported mutilations than before or after. He believes the surge in reports was because small-scale ranchers, especially in Colorado, where the mutilation reports were way higher, they were frustrated over their economic anxiety and their resentment over government interference. And here's why. Because in the 1970s, the U.S. government had sent a ton of grain to other nations as aid, and this drove up the domestic price of cattle feed. And around the same time, President Richard Nixon intermittently froze the price of beef and other meat to try and combat inflation. This also took a toll on the American cattle industry. In 1975, the president of the American National Cattlemen's Association said the industry had suffered, quote, operating losses of $5 billion plus a reduction of inventory value of $20 billion.
Yeah, that's going to put a tight squeeze on the ranchers, man.
Right?
It's like reducing it to nothing. Almost.
Yeah, that's wild. So ranchers were in a tight economic squeeze, which might have led to the craze in the cattle mutilation theories, or in other words, this was mass hysteria. As an explanation for what was happening to the cattle, veterinary pathologists pointed out that scavengers tend to eat the soft tissue of a dead animal first, which would explain the missing external organs. The lack of blood might be due to livor mortis. When an animal dies, the heart stops and the blood stops circulating, setting the blood via gravity. So this would make it appear the cow would have a lack of blood in some surface parts of the carcass, making it appear completely exsanguinated. And then in Washington County, Arkansas, back in 1979, the sheriff's department had actually conducted an experiment where they placed a dead cow in a field for 48 hours just to see what would happen to it. In the end, it looked identical to the so-called mutilated ones. Bacteria bloating caused the skin to tear in what looked like surgical incisions, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier, similar to those ranchers' reports. Remember, they were saying those cuts looked like they were very precise, nearly surgical. They also reported maggots and blowflies had also cleaned out the animal's organs.
So you're saying this is a hoax? Is that what you're insinuating here?
I'm not insinuating anything. I am reporting the facts.
Sounds all very fishy to me, but similar to the cattle issue in the 70s, many figured that there was a scientific answer to why these piglets in the 21st century are born with humanoid features that didn't involve alien intervention. Turns out there's a pretty straightforward answer. Max Rothschild, director of the Center for Integrated Animal Genomics at Iowa State University and coordinator of the USDA National Pig Genome Project, immediately thought the claims of humanoid piglets were bogus. Max had done extensive research on birth defects in pigs, and about 1% to 2% of all pigs are born with defects. They aren't caused by mutations either, and as he explained it, it's more of a mechanical error in the womb during development. It can be caused by something in the mother's feed, or maybe it's just a simple issue with cells not dividing properly. He explained that the Guatemalan pig that we showed you was most likely had hydrocephalus, which is a buildup of fluid inside the skull that causes it to swell up. He wasn't even fazed when reviewing the footage, and even said, quote, "Snout problems are common. I have a 2-headed pig in a jar in my office, but it has no genetic basis. It just happens during development."
Isn't that weird? So he's saying like this isn't necessarily like mutations in the DNA. It's just things that happen because they're all smashed in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're holding 10 to 12 piglets.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, pigs are, fairly large animals, but I mean, you put 10 to 12 in there, there's not going to be a lot of room in the womb.
Right.
Which is exactly what could have happened here. There's crowding issues. There's lots of other factors that can play into birth defects. I mean, it's similar to human birth defects as well. There's a lot of different things that you have to stay away from because they could cause birth defects.
Right.
So to me, the humanoid features with these piglets is not, I think the scientific explanation makes a lot of sense. I think it's very obvious. You got, you saw in the video, there was like 10 other piglets that were over there feeding on mom,
right?
That it would make sense. And I think anybody who's ever raised livestock before would tell you 1000%
this is just what happens.
This is what happens. Yeah. I mean, even with rabbits, most of the times you have we had 8
that's a lot.
Baby rabbits all at once, which was
that's
crazy.
A huge litter.
All inside of her at one time. Yeah. And usually you end up losing 1, 2, 3 on average out of the litter. And we didn't lose any, which I was very proud of. Yeah, it was like surprising. And we thought we were going to lose the runt because he was such a small little guy and he wasn't like eating too much. But that was a really great experience for me because I really saw the whole development process and could totally see how 1 out of the 8 could have, maybe not had enough room or wasn't getting enough nutrients or developing incorrectly. That is just born with these defects and then probably, likely dies soon after birth anyways. And I think anybody out there who's done, raised livestock would 1000% tell you this happens all the time where, an animal gives birth and there's some type of defect and it ends up dying as a result of it, which I would assume is what happened with this deformed piglet. It didn't live very long.
Yeah, that's
not going to be able to have a quality of life,
Right. Especially the what was it, hydrocephalus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that pig lasted much longer. Like after those videos, it was pretty much a goner.
But when it comes to cattle mutilation, on the other hand, I don't necessarily. I think there are some cases where yes, it could be potentially scavengers, but I think I've seen a lot. There's some really weird ones where I don't know, man, and I think also the locations at which these cattle mutilations are reported are also happen to be, especially here in Colorado, UFO hotspots, where there is a surprising number of UFO reports coming out of people seeing things in the skies out there down the San Luis Valley, man.
Yeah.
UFO Central out there.
The livestock section, I don't really believe that it's aliens, but that's more to bounce off of. This is why people kind of immediately, with a lot of livestock, they immediately go to aliens because of like this huge explosion back in the 70s of those theories. That's usually what these theories are piggybacking off of, is that time.
Piggybacking. I like that. That's good.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not really sold on it. More so, I think the data, it's weird because like the fact that they did kind of prove how those cows would die, what would kill them, how exactly those incisions would show up. I mean, I could believe that it would be scavengers or a natural death or something, especially in a time where the economic constraints are kind of, you lose one more cow in an industry that's already squeezing you by the balls. I could see how you would get so frustrated to the point where you're like, what is taking out my cattle? Because you would probably hyper focus on it much more so. So I can buy that theory. I'm not saying that that's 100% the answer to what's going on, but I do think the fact that like cattle deaths weren't even fluctuating, like they weren't even going up during that time period either, I think is kind of telling, to where people were just focusing on it more and the spotlight was more on it, to the point where the FBI was getting involved. Seems quite overblown, but I could understand that it was more like the political, economic problems outside of what was happening.
I would
contributes.
I just think it's odd that this is still a rampant issue today, like recently. Like you can find recent reports as of like this year and last year of people reporting cattle mutilations. And there's even people who have reported finding like concentric circles around their cows that have been mutilated.
Oh yeah.
Almost like crop circles around their cattle, which I'm like, could they be hoaxing that for attention? Sure. And I'm sure that happens. But I think there's the sheer amount that this phenomenon still happens is almost too wild to ignore. I think
you don't think it would still just be the scavengers or a predator?
The problem is I've seen too many interviews with ranchers who are like, I know the difference between my cattle that's been scavenged by birds, predators, coyotes, whatever it may be, versus cattle that I find that I'm like, this is weird. And I tend to trust the ranchers because I'm like, they know this better than any of us and better than whoever, whatever investigating agency is going, taking a look at this, that they know their cattle and they've seen all the all the different circumstances play out. And why would they be making such a big fuss if it's just scavengers? Plus they would just take care of the scavenger issue. They go kill the coyotes or whatever, or, get some more dogs or something. But this is such a rampant issue in the way that they're being found. And if you just look at the pictures, I mean, some of the pictures, I don't even understand how, with the time at which they find the cattle as well, like less than 48 hours. That was a 48-hour experiment, but they're finding cattle the next day. So minus 12 hours and they look like this. And there's no evidence whatsoever of any sort of creature being there at the scene. And I mean, ranchers have really, really looked at this. There's a great Unsolved Mysteries episode on cattle mutilations that I suggest everybody check out, because there's a lot of really interesting examples in that particular episode that are very recent as well, that there's still a whole bunch of ranchers out there who, they don't say like, yes, it's aliens that are doing genetic testing on her, but it's more so of, we don't know what the fuck this is. It's really annoying that this keeps happening. but there is not a scientific explanation that supports some of these deaths that they're seeing because of the lack of evidence that backs it up. And there's certain, and then when you like look at, well, would this scavenger actually eat this particular organ? Would they eat it in this certain way? And when you drill down into it a little bit more, I think there's a lot of questions about, well, would a coyote eat it this way? Would this particular bird that's native to this region actually, rip the skin off the face in this way? And there's just a lot of weird nuances to it that just don't really add up.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I find it really interesting. And whether is it aliens, taking samples for something? I don't know. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, I guess, but could there be something else? And that's where I think people also lean into the paranormal a little bit more of like, could it be, whether you're talking about a cryptid or you're talking about some type of paranormal interdimensional entity that's feeding off of it for sustenance in order to continue to survive. I don't know. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah. I have no idea. But that is the iconic UFO coming in. What is it always sucking up?
Beaming up the cattle.
Yeah.
Yep. Could that be happening? I don't know. No one's caught it on footage yet. So
True.
I'm waiting to see that, of course.
That would be insane.
Put some trail cameras out there. And like, watch. And I know people have tried it and they don't end up getting anything, but you never know. You just never know. We want to believe, right?
So out of all those, what do you think is the absolute stupidest hoax out of all those? I think I know my answer. I'm curious to hear your guys.
Well, if we're going just full blown hoaxer, man, Rick takes.
Yeah,
the cake,
that's
man.
what I was
killing
gonna
Bigfoot.
say.
I mean, there's just no question.
Yeah, come on.
There's no question whatsoever.
Yeah. And it's like people have worked so long and so hard to like even just find evidence of Bigfoot existing. But then to, on top of that, find Bigfoot and then kill Bigfoot? What? Why would you even want to do that, first of all? Wouldn't you rather have him alive? And like, does he speak? Can he communicate? Can we get any information out of him? Can we track where he goes? And like, if there are more of them? No, he's just, I shot and killed it.
Put his head on my wall.
Yeah.
Make a rug.
On. Seriously.
Yeah, I think Rick Dyer takes the cake in this one.
Gold medal.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Rick.
There's just no beating Rick, man.
No.
Doubled down.
Yeah, what a goofball.
Balthazar's.
He's up there.
But although his
gross.
His is just like, I want to interview him and like talk to him about this a little bit.
What's your thing?
Understand what's going on here.
Yeah. And get his, like you were saying, interview the people who are donating the blood. What's up with them? What's going on, guys?
Absolutely. Well, let us know your thoughts on all these. Which one made you laugh the most? How about that? That's what I want to know.
That's a good one.
Drop which story made you laugh the most in the comments below. And what'd you think of these paranormal hoaxes?
Yeah, if you think there are some stupid hoaxes that even top the ones we mentioned, let us know.
Drop them below too, because maybe we'll do a follow up to this one. Because I mean, there's endless. I mentioned a couple on here already, just from past episodes I did on other shows. But yeah, I mean, there's people. I feel like this is something that will never stop happening. People are always going to hoax stuff.
Always, as long as there are
people willing to
buy into something like that, I think there's always going to be people who exploit that to some degree.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast today. If you did, do us a big favor. It takes 2 seconds. Just make sure you're subscribed. If you're watching on YouTube, there's 20% of you that are watching and aren't subscribed. Please just take a second, press that button, hit that like button, leave a comment. It helps us. Helps the channel. We really appreciate it. For all of you that are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, thank you as well. Definitely check out the video version for this episode, because you kind of need the visuals to really put all the pieces together. But yeah, make sure you're following us over there. As always, we loved hanging out with you. Hopefully you loved hanging out with us. If you're going to bed, good night. Hopefully you have sweet dreams about some some of these images we showed you.
yeah, right.
I know a lot of you fall asleep listening to us. Don't know how you do it,
That's impressive.
but hopefully you sleep good. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, lights out. Everybody.